Oh, won't you stay with me?
For today's review, I was sorely tempted to get up close and personal. I really just wanted to put my computer on my lap and film it from there, but basically I lost my nerve. I was like, continuity, maybe I should just keep doing what I'm doing, whether it works or not. Today's book, though, is If I Stay by Gayle Forman. I know a lot of you are probably like, why do you keep doing books that everybody's already read? That everybody's already read? Well, because I like this book, and this is my channel, and this is my birthday month, so I'm going to do what I want. So if you don't agree, see ya. In terms of this book, it revolves around a teenage girl named Mia Hall who is on the precipice of life and death, and she has to make a decision. She has to decide if she's going to live or if she's going to die. The book opens on a snow day with her brother, and her father, who is a teacher out of school. Her mother says, you know what? I'm going to call out to, let's go on a trip. So they're on their way, and somehow the father loses control of the car. The car crashes, and spoiler, the parents die almost immediately. Mia and then her little brother Teddy are then life-flighted to different hospitals. The book continues to unfold with alternate timelines. The now, with Mia seeing how her loved ones are reacting to the situation, and then the then. Through them, we get to know her family dynamics. We get to know her boyfriend Adam. We get to know her best friend Kim. We get to know her love of music and the trials and tribulations that she has gone through on this journey as a cellist, and how it's affected her relationships and her life in the way that all of this has formed her as a person. So this is one of those books, I don't know, if there's a good deal on iBooks, if there's a good deal on iBooks, like $4.99, I will buy that audiobook. If not, I import the book and listen to it that way. When I was opening this one up, I was like, 5 hours? The last book I listened to was 18 hours. Am I missing tracks? No, it's just a short book, and sometimes we need short books. This book never fails to impress me. The movie was nothing but a failure, but the book, because I've read it a number of times, and in between the last read and this read, I saw something, I think it was on Goodreads, I saw some reviews that were like, we have no idea why people like this book, it's so boring, but I've always thought it was incredibly powerful. I've enjoyed the emotion that comes from a teenage girl deciding between, because have I already told you that her brother dies? Well, if I haven't, I have now. So deciding between the family that she lost and the life that she lost, and then life itself, and all the people who are still loving her and counting on her and waiting for her to come back to them. And then on top of that, this audiobook, I like the narration, but what I really love, because a big part of Mia's life and personality is her love of the cello. And I thought that the inclusion of cello music throughout the audiobook was the icing on the cake. I thought it did so much to tie together the emotions and the story with the storytelling, because sometimes it can be really cut and dry, and I thought that the cello did exactly what it needed to do, especially since if you're like me, you're unfamiliar with the cello. You don't listen to cello music. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't mean anything to you. So then to tie in this really important part of who Mia is, it was genius. And it really just showed how emotional a cello can be, and the emotions that it can pull out of you. There's not a whole lot, obviously it's a short book. So while it is well crafted and it is intricate, it's short. So that means there's not as much detail that needs to be gotten into. What I will talk about is Adam. She plays the cello. Adam is in a band, and it is named Shooting Star, and they are on their rising star. The night of the accident, they're actually playing a concert. They're opening for a really big band. Naturally, upon learning about her accident, he decides he's not playing. So the really cool thing about this band is the way that they respect the emotions and the lives of the members. So because he decided not to play, they decided not to play. He essentially sacrificed his future and the exposure of his band for her. And then you contrast that with the fact that he can't even get in to see her. Okay, I understand how Forman explains away his rationale because the grandparents are there. And Kim points out, she's like, Kim, the best friend, I forgot if I mentioned who that was. This is my second attempt at this review, so I'm mixing up details. But she points out, she's like, why don't you just ask her grandparents and see if they can help you get in to see her? And he's just like, I don't want to put that on them. It's understandable. And if it were easy, we would miss a lot of this book. Now, a lot of the book does focus on Adam's determination and desperation to get to see Mia, and how his love for her, here's the ultimate spoiler, his love for her is what causes her to choose life. There had been a point where her grandfather had said something, and then Kim had said something to the effect of, it's okay to go, like, we understand. And so she's choosing to go. That is her ultimate decision. But Adam, who had spent all this time trying to see her, when he finally does get in to see her, he automatically is like, I gotta go do something. But she decides, or he asks her to wait for him. And so she has chosen to die, but she's not gonna go before Adam comes back. And then he comes back and he is playing for her the music of a cellist named Yo-Yo Ma, who she greatly admires and whose concert was their first date. It was from that she kind of subconsciously decides to stay. I thought it was a nice little love story. I liked how they are opposites in almost every way, from the type of music that they play to the way that they conduct themselves to their life experiences. Yet he sees something in her that he likes, and he doesn't really care if she's cool or not. Like, he admires her love of music and he wants to get to know her. But even though there's that, like, all their differences do threaten to tear them apart. And it's not until really he gets into the fold of her family that they realize, like, they can do this thing. And on that note, I loved her family. I've always loved her family. This read through, I had a couple of can I roll my eye moments because they seemed almost too perfect, too loving, too fun. But I think it's necessary to paint the family that way because you show how much she's lost, how much she's losing by choosing to stay, how the tragedy, her brother, she's 17, her brother's 7. So the tragedy of everything that he's gonna miss out on in life, and the fact that she's gonna have to go through the rest of her life without these people in her life. We also get to look into Kim, who I thought it was fun the way that they were enemies at first. Like, they were so similar that people assumed that they were gonna be friends, and because of these assumptions, they decided they didn't want to be friends until they had a knockdown drag out, and they're like, okay, let's be friends. And how it was actually Kim who convinced Mia not to give up the cello because Mia came from a rock family, and then the fact that she got into classical music, it was kind of like, what? And so she gets into this classical thing, but she eventually realized how solitary it was and how much of her time was devoted to it. So she at one point was considering drawing back, and she's like, everybody is so busy, they'll never know it until it's done. But Kim noticed. I liked the balance of her and Kim. I liked the strength that the outward strength that Kim shows, whereas Mia has more of an inward strength. I wish I had more to say about this book, but it's kind of short and sweet and to the point. Most interesting part of her decision-making process is how the way she was thinking had an effect on her physical well-being. When she's upset, she flatlines, or like something happens, and then all of a sudden she goes into not cardiac arrest, but all the machines and whatnot start going off because it seems like there had been a slow leak inside her body and now she needs emergency surgery. And that was a reflection of her current state of mind. So I liked the way that Forman played off of that, because we all have different thoughts on not necessarily the afterlife, but on what's going on in a sick person's mind and body. So is it just science, or is it emotion? Like, is the person really holding on for something and waiting for something before letting go? Or is it just their time and their body gives out? So I liked that it wasn't just science, that it really was Mia deciding. Like, she hadn't even realized. It kind of reminds me of Lauren Oliver's Before I Fall, where that one deals with the 7 stages of grief. And this one is really how you see her really strong in the beginning, but then the more she sees and the more she realizes, the more she is questioning what the right thing to do is, until she makes that ultimate decision. It's a pretty sudden ending. I am caught off guard every single time where she makes the choice and she can finally feel Adam's hand in hers, and then we fade to black. And you're like, what's gonna happen next? Thankfully, we have the next book, Where She Went, so we don't have to wait that long. But it's one of those things where Adam, and that's where She Went kind of comes into play, where he's like, look, as long as you stay, you can do anything. Basically, he's acknowledging the selfishness of his request for her to stay, saying, look, if you stay, I'll go. All I ask is that you stay. It's interesting because you are then wondering what does happen. Does she remember anything of this period during her coma? Do they stay together? How does their relationship fare? I can't wait to jump into Where She Went. I know this was super duper short, but it's a super duper short book. It was a 5-hour listen, so there we go. Do you like this book? Do you hate this book? Are you ambivalent about this book? It's still one of my favorites, which is why it's during my birthday month. But yeah, I will see you later. Bye.